plugging into this this group, and I want to say I have a half honorary membership in the Church Planters group because the Canterbury Club at Samford University, which is a Southern Baptist university right down the road from Katy, there was no Episcopal presence on campus, and I created that, and now there is a priest who shares University of Alabama, Birmingham, and Samford University as their job. And so it was, I didn't even know that until about 2 years ago, that little club that was not allowed to have Eucharist on campus because it has wine, and the Southern Baptists were having no part of that. And so it's nice that it's out now an actual real funded campus ministry. So that's my then overlap with this group, and I'm really proud to have some there. I want to go through a very quick kind of, here's what we say about ourselves to every group. And it's kind of a church pension group in a nutshell, and who we are and why we do what we do. And then there's just 2 slides that I want to dispel some myths, and I want to say how we can work with you. And you'll notice and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Katie told me how to do this. I had never worked, we worked with GoToMeeting and not Zoom. So I think I can start the presentation, and I can still see you. Okay, looks like it's working. So my title is the Chief Church Relations Officer. And so I want to make sure that I don't disappoint anyone from the very get-go. My title is not Chief All Things Answered Person. So I am really good at taking notes and getting people plugged into the right people at Church Pension Group. So I might say many times on this call, I don't know the answer to that, but I know who does, and I will get you in touch with that person. But I do want to just give you that headline that we want to be partners with you, and we want to not be the thing that you think about in those moments of fear and loathing for the future. We want to be a part of your ministry right now through your retirement. So if we go to the next slide, here we go. So and Katie used the word navigation, and so this would be the navigation chart for the Church Pension Group. We are a purpose-driven organization, and our purpose is to support the church's clergy and lay employees in their calling to spread the gospel. And that has been our purpose since we were founded over 100 years ago. And so it is in our warp and weft. It doesn't say clergy who have a 1950s employment model. It is all clergy and lay employees, and we want to work with them as they spread the gospel. So we do that. We fulfill that purpose through 3 lines of business: employee benefits, that's the pension and the medical that everyone thinks about; property and casualty insurance for churches, for camps and conference center when applicable; and our publishing business. It is a very odd thing to have a publishing business as a part of a pension fund, but that business actually funded a lot of the early pensions that we provided through copyright fees for the hymnal. So church publishing actually was one of our first donors into the pension plan. And we will talk about being our vision is to have that purpose front of mind. It's financial security in retirement, financial stewardship. We don't believe that that we are the folks that are sitting on a whole lot of money in New York City, though that is said sometimes. Our financial stewardship is we have money given to us for the retirement of clergy and lay employees, and we want to be the best financial stewards and do the best with that money that we can. It is not ours. We are stewards of that money. And finally, and this is where it will relate to this group, I think, we work with the evolving needs of the church in order to fulfill that purpose. So we have 3-year objectives. Our 3-year objective for this triennium is financial discipline, efficient and effective operations, and strong relationships around the church. And that relates directly to my job because I am new to the church relations department. Ann Maloney had been our church relations, our only church relations clergy person. So now we are a group of 3 people. There's an analyst and 2 clergy, and my job is really that bridge between the business and our clients. So if we go over to, I'm not going to kill you with this chart. It just shows that there are initiatives across the triennium that are a part of making sure that we are being good stewards and that we are building on our relationships across the church. Our corporate goals, if you'll notice, we look a lot like most financial services organizations. We care about our employees with their organizational health. We have financial discipline. We really want to make sure that we have the information and we govern it very well. We work with our client services department to make sure we answer questions when they come up. So I made notes about the CPG website. So Susan and Nelson, I'll probably be getting back in touch with you about how we can, kind of address some of the website issues that you point to. We're looking at General Convention, not in 2021, we think, but whenever it happens, we have a presence there. And then there's those relationships around the church. All of these things are our corporate mantra. This is how we build our work and how we do our work across the years. And underneath those, all of that stuff that I've talked about are 3 core values: and professionalism, compassion, and being a strong partner and being trusted and trustworthy are those 3 items that we build everything off of. And so that is how we do our planning and who we are. And then I'll go into the slides that are actually focused on you. So sorry if that was eye-rollingly boring, but I wanted to make sure that everyone got a good overview of kind of this is what we say when we talk about ourselves and how we do our work and how we are focused. So hopefully that was somewhat enlightening. And now I want to click over to just specifically 2 slides targeted right at this group. But before I do that, any things that came up for you as I walk through basically 100 years of history in the church and serving the church in the way that we do. And I can see, I think, almost everybody. All right, so let me click over to the slide.
I do just want to say real quick, all the complaints about websites aside, every time I have had any encounters with you guys, you have been unbelievably helpful. So I just feel like I wanted to say that. You really are always very, very responsive and actually very caring and really great. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So I want to dispel a few myths, and actually some of these came up when people were doing their introductions, and so it's like, oh, that's actually good that I wrote that there. So pensions are only for standard issue clergy. And I think that is one of those myths that I heard, Jonathan, you mentioned, you said, being a real clergy when I grow up kind of thing. It's like, no. You are a clergy person. Being a clergy person means that we want to partner with you in however we can. And the nice thing about that, you'll see on the next slide, is that we've actually done some work, even back in 2018, on how to do that, how to partner with folks that don't look like the kind of standard issue. And even that is a misnomer now, because I think if you look across the church, the standard issue is not nearly as standard as it used to be. There are clergy who spread the gospel of Christ and teach people about Jesus. Well, that's our standard issue. It's not, you know, a 1950s model of being a clergy person any longer. The other one is pensions are something you think about after a few years of ministry. If I could do one thing and I could ask you to spread this around anyone that you have that is a church planter, has an entrepreneurial spirit, and is wondering about, okay, well, I want to try this for a while, and then I'll get back to, you know, making a pension. It's like, we want to be there from the very beginning. And so this is one of the things that Nuria said. She brought up to me, is like, well, I was really busy doing my work. And then I looked up one day and realized, oh my gosh, I am not in the pension plan. And, you know, yeah, I think 4 or 5 years had gone by. So we want to be from the very beginning of, okay, this is my ministry. I'm thrilled that dioceses are on this call, because that's one of the ways that we can make sure that we have church planters, entrepreneurial people plugged into the pension plan and our benefits from the very beginning. And the other one is, I'll never serve long enough to build up a real pension. Well, I think one of the things that we are very proud of is that we lean on 100 years of our history in order for our pensions. A defined benefit pension is almost unheard of now. And one of the reasons is that when you build up a body of investment strength, the pension fund has these ancillary benefits that you can take advantage of, that a defined contribution plan, which is what most people in the U.S. have, those defined contribution plans, they put all of the work onto you to decide what investments to make. And most of us who went through seminary are not investment professionals. So that's really kind of a scary thing, that I would have to be choosing my own investment portfolio. And they don't offer things that you can say, okay, I want to take some time to actually talk to someone who understands what being a clergy person is, and how to say, this is how long I want to do ministry in this way. I might do ministry in a different way. Are you here with me throughout my entire career? And so I think the long enough serving piece, that's one of those questions that if you're, you know, Tina, you mentioned, I'm off, not working right now. It might be a 6-month period before coming back in. What do I do? And I have the person that you should talk to. My bias is, and I had an internet startup right after my ordination, because there were no jobs that I could get in the Bay Area before I went to Palo Alto and served as a parish priest. So I went, when I came to the pension fund, first thing that someone said to me was like, you've got breaks in service. You should take care of that. And I asked, what do you mean, take care of it? I wasn't even sure what that meant. And so it is really great that we have an entry point to build, you know, to continue your credited service at a very low cost. And that time into the plan means a huge amount. And so make sure that I get you the name, Tina, so that you've got the right person to talk to. And then there's nowhere to go to find out the details. And, you know, one of the things is what the Church Relations Department used to focus on was being in the church at the kind of diocesan level, or, you know, a bishop being ordained, or this a big church conference. And one of the things that we're doing now is talking to groups like this of, okay, find your way into us. If you need to find the door, I will point you in the way. That is really what my job is to be able to say, I'm not sure where to go. And it's like, I can help you get there. And so I presented you myself as the way to go and find out the details. So here are some of the ways that we can work with you. The pension plan revision of 2018, and David's gonna get sad now, so we all should take care of David at this point. When we did our 100-year anniversary, one of the things that we did was we looked at how is the church changing? What does ministry look like? What do people's careers look like in the church? And we were convinced we spent 2 years going around the church, talking to many, many different groups. We were convinced that ministry was changing in the church. We wanted to build a plan from the very beginning that includes changes in vocations, changes in times of service, moving from a part-time job to a full-time job, having a break in service, and then coming back in, and making sure that when we looked at someone's career historically, we would have said, oh, well, for this year, you only worked a few months, so we're going to give you a percentage of a year's credited service for that. And then, you really didn't serve very long at this salary amount, and it kind of stood by itself, so it's really not going to be counted as a full year. All of those things were built around the presupposition that you had no breaks in service ever, and your career path, you made more and more and more and more money throughout the time, and it was a 30 to 40 year block, the end. That was the way that it was built 103-4 years ago. Now what we did with that 2018 revision is we said, we want to make sure that when people have breaks in service, they are not penalized for that. We want to make sure that when someone's salary changes, we are able to adjust the plan up or down depending on what the salary change is, and not penalize someone for having changes in their salary. So it was about having flexibility in salary reporting for church planters. And this was one of the things that I talked to a church planter in the Bay Area, and I'm blocking on his name now. We ask for you to report your salary for the year. And he said, well, I don't know what my salary is going to be for the year. 1 month I'm doing, I have my normal salary. The next month I actually may not make half of that. And then the next month it goes back to the regular salary. How can I give you a regular salary when I don't know? That's part of being an entrepreneur. You go in with, this is what it's going to be, and I'm going to work through it. And it never says anywhere on our form, and here's the answer. I actually know this answer. Report to us your assumed salary. If you need to make an adjustment up or down, just tell us what the adjustment is. You are not locking yourself into anything, and it's not going to hurt your pension if you move your salary around. I had no idea, actually. I'd never filled out that form, that we ask you for the year's salary. And even that feels like a bar of entry of, well, what if I don't know? I can't answer that block. So it is, give us your best guess, and we work with you on a monthly basis to do reporting on what your salary actually was. And so that's one of those things that we're going to revise our form so it's clearer for folks that may not have a reliable salary month to month, so that doesn't look like you're not a part of who we're targeting. We offer free financial planning professional conversations as one of the services that we offer. That's another thing that other plans don't offer that we're able to do because we've got 100 years under our belt. We have our IBAMS team working with the diocese, and Susan and Janet they know who their representative are. I never can remember what IBAMS stands for. We have so many acronyms that I lose track of that one. I will tell you what it is. These are the folks that work directly with dioceses that know all of the ways that our benefits are shaped and delivered. And so this is the person that your diocese can go to make sure that you're included in the benefits that we offer. So many church planters work with dioceses, even if dioceses don't know exactly what to do with them. This is how that diocese, you can say to your diocese, oh, talk to your IBAMS representative. They will be able to help me get the benefits that I need. And that's a great little shorthand. And so that we have our client services number, that's our 800 number. And you see my email address there, and Katie can give that to you. So I wanted to make sure that I went a little longer than what I wanted to go, but now we wanted to have at least 20 minutes for questions at the end of the hour for those who have to leave at the end of the hour. And like Katie said, we'll be around for as long as needed for the rest of you. Let me stop my screen sharing so I can see more of your faces.
I just put your email in that chat box in case it didn't get copied down. So you got it.
Great. And I've been nattering and not looking at the chat box, so now I'm glancing at it.
Alana, did you feel like you had your question answered about taking care of breaks in service?
I guess what I'm really wanting to know is specifically how I get started with that. And then I watched some videos on the website. I put in a call, but hadn't heard back from anyone, and just understood that there was like a 24-month period where you could do that. But I was wondering, is that cumulative, or is it for a particular break-in service? And I've worked about 9 years full-time, so I have that credited service. But at the same time, with this gap, just wanting to make sure that I continue to pay in, and don't end up in 20 years being like, oh no, I forgot that I could have taken care of this, which could totally happen. So just wanting to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So let me take your specific scenario. So 9 years of credited service that you were paying into the plan. And then there's a break in the service for whatever reason, deciding to study, have a family, looking for something that enlivens the spirit more, and there's a break. So in our plan now, you have credited service that stops. You can pay in yourself at the hypothetical minimum, which is about $18,200. That is, you pay the 18% of that. So it's a very small amount for a month of credited service. You can pay up to 24 months of that. And that used to be much shorter. It was actually half that. So now you do 24 months. If you go back to a parish job and you start being paid in by a parish or a diocese, that 24-month counter resets to 0.
Okay.
So let's say you work for, you take a summer position that meets the criteria for the 18% assessment to be made. You've got a letter of agreement. You have, you are making over that hypothetical minimum. And that, so we say, oh, your accredited service, you're now starting accredited service again. And let's say that job lasts for 9 months or a year. You can once again pay in for those 24 months. So your counter sets over resets. You don't have to pay for all 24 months. If you only want to pay for 3 months before the next job kicks in, you can just pay for 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh.
Could I just ask a quick follow-up question? Is there, thank you also, Alana, because we are in very similar situations. Is there a minimum, so right now I have funding secured for the next, almost, we're just going to go with it for now, for the next 6 months. So do you have to be then sort of gainfully employed for a minimum number of months before that clock resets, the 24-month clock resets?
Now that is a question that I should know, and I will send you the answer to that. There are minimums. I know that the salary minimum is one that you need to meet. You need to have a letter of agreement, but I don't know what a letter of agreement. Yes, and that's important anyway. This is one of the things that a lot of clergy have just taken a job. Yeehaw! You actually need a letter of agreement for the protection of everyone involved in your employment. So that's something you should have anyway. But that is one of the proofs that we use for the plan. And Katie, I will send you the answer to that. I don't want to say the wrong thing, and then maybe you could send it with the video of some questions and answers that came up, and I'll make sure I get that answer for you, Tina.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Let's see, Susan, you threw in the chat box. Does that also apply? Yeah.
But I had the also shouldn't be there. Does it only apply to if the break occurred after 18, or is it also before? Because I know if you want to do an extension of ministry because things weren't accredited to the pension plan, which happened to me, anything that was pre-18 was under the old rules. Anything post-18 was under the new rules. And so it makes it more challenging for me to get that extension. So anyway, I'm wondering if that applies to the break and paying in, because it's somewhat related, but not totally.
That's an excellent question. And this has come up a couple of times, Susan, that when the rules changed, we made some things much easier, like the 24 months paying for yourself, and remind me to come back to extension of ministry if I don't. For breaks in service that were before the 2018 new pension plan, we allow people to go back and fix that once. So you can't kind of tinker with it, pre-change in plan again and again. But if you have something like that, or someone that needs to do an extension of ministry that's pre the plan, I believe we initially did not think that was going to happen very much, but we take those on a case-by-case basis, and I know that we have flexibility there. I realize we were kind of talking about a real wonky kind of thing there, Susan and I, but when a benefits plan changes, the plan rules, I was talking to David earlier, he's under the old plan rules, and when he retired, those rules locked in place. Most plans, when they change the plan rules, they will not allow you to, go past the change mark. We want people to be able to say, oh, you know what? I'm just now thinking of this. And so I've got this credited service that I want to take care of. We sent out, note after note after note for people that were already in the plan to say, please take care of any, old credited service. But I believe we still have some folks coming and asking us. If you have that situation, and Susan, if you have that situation, get in touch with me, and I'll get it to the right person. So hopefully that was helpful. I want to talk about extension of ministry. So extension of ministry is super important, especially to this group. So an extension of ministry is when you work with a bishop and say, I want to do this ministry. I may actually be bivocational at this point, and I've got a job that I depend on to kind of make things work, but I am going to take out a portion of the work that I do and build a ministry. And that ministry may not be funded at first, but I have, I've got the blessing of my bishop, and this is the thing that we're going to be doing. What we have is the extension of ministry. You can apply to us to say, hey, this is a ministry. It's actually not, it's not, doesn't fit the mold yet. And Nuria was in this boat when she first started Plain Song. It was an extension of ministry that she did. It became a ministry of the diocese, and now her assessments are paid by Plain Song directly as an Episcopal institution. But before then, she had the bishop signed the extension of form. She was actually paying her assessments based on the salary that she believed that she was getting. And so what we did was that is real credited service. So Tina, in this example, let's say you had an extension of ministry where you were going to pay the assessments, or you had you worked with the diocese and they were going to pay for this piece of your extension of ministry as a part of, but it's not an Episcopal institution yet. That is credited service. So you're not using that 24 months of personal payment time during an extension of ministry. And then you could say, well, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to take a break. Then you could have the 24 months of personal, and then you could start go into a parish or start a new ministry. So we try to be as flexible as possible as people build their ministries. Hopefully that made some sense. Susan, was that helpful?
Yes, I just wanted to help clarify for others, because again, some of it was a surprise to me, only because when I was doing ministry that counted as an extension of ministry,
yep.
Nobody on the diocesan level came to me and said, we should be doing this right now. So that was in 2012. And so I am hypersensitive to our clergy who are working outside the bounds of traditional looking ministry, that they are well aware of that. But also then we learned there was the 2018 before and 2018 after. So again, part of what my wondering was about the earlier question is, does that demarcation between 18 going forward and back make a difference? Because it seems that will be the case on many pension issues. So I want to clarify
many of the
for everyone.
Yep. We work with folks that are in the plan to make that work. We for the first 2 years we were communicating out, but pension mail may not be the most engaging and interesting mail you get in your mailbox. And other than David gets his direct deposit receipt, he likes that one. But people missed it when we were saying, please, if you got some old service that you want to bridge in, please do that before our time runs out. And so what we do now is tell us, we will work within the rules because we have to stay qualified from a federal plan perspective, but we try to be as flexible as possible. Not many people, I think, in the church planting area are going to need to go backwards past that 2018 marker, but it's really good to know, because from a diocesan point of view, you may still have some people like that, and send them to me, Susan.
So we got Gail with a hand up.
Hi, Gail.
Yeah, thank you, Clayton. I had a extension of ministry under the old system, and I understood at that point I could go back 24 months to claim what I hadn't originally claimed in the old system.
You can go back for an extension of ministry and say, oh, you know, that extension of ministry went 24 months prior, and we actually would allow, we had flexibility there too. Our guidelines were 24 months and nothing earlier. When we changed our plan, that's when we opened up anything before this 2018 marker, please bring that up to date. But our extension of ministry, we do go retroactive with those extension of ministry grants. It just needs to have the bishop's signature, and we ask that it not be years before you say, oh, by the way, we have this old service that we want to get credit for.
Well, and that's helpful because I think I had something like 6 months, eight months that has not been accredited, but I was still doing the work.
Yep.
So it sounds like I could go back and get accreditation for that time.
So would you email me directly, and
Yeah.
I'll make sure that I plug you into the right person, and just give me the kind of dates and that information, and then I can work it through
great.
the system.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
Jonathan, do you want to, I know David's got a hand up, but Jonathan, did you want to call out your question you put in the chat box?
Sure. I was just seeing if you could briefly go over like the highlights of the most significant changes for the quote unquote new rules, and if there are things that are in process that are maybe coming that we should be aware of.
I don't think that I'll go reverse order. I don't think we're not planning to, pension funds typically don't tinker with their plans. So it took us 100 years to tinker with it, and now we'll probably take another, because time is more malleable, we'll probably tinker with it again in 50 years. So I don't think there are any big changes coming down from the base of the plan. And that relates to Susan's question of when you change a plan, there are all of these things, there are all these walls that get built. And so we try not to change the plan on any regular basis. So we did 1 century and then we changed it. I don't think we're going to change it quickly again. The most significant changes, so I'm going to give you my bias as to what the most significant changes were. One of the biggest biases that I had was, let's say you have breaks in service. You got 3 months here, and then you had 2 months there, and then you back up to your whole career, and there's these little chunks of broken service. What the old plan would do was run 12 months, until it got to a break in service, and then it would take, let's say if you had 6 months and then you had a break in service, you didn't actually get to 12 months, they take those months out and then start counting 12 months again. And that was actually pulling out some real credited service, and it was actually changing how the calculations were done. It was based on 12-month chunks, and those were not mutable. One of the changes that we made was now we take your career, and any pieces of broken service that are in there, we just push your career together, and then we look at what the 12 highest months of salary would have been. So it doesn't matter January to December, or it doesn't matter if there were any like breaks in between. We push it together and we find the 12 highest months of salary, and that's what we base your pension off of. That is a significant change for anyone that has any variability or any breaks in service. That is actually, I think, probably as significant a change as we made in the plan. The 24 months of between cures, the ability to have 24 months, and that resetting of the clock when you go back in, because one of the things that it had been is like, oh, well, nobody really ever has any break of service. They just go from one parish to the next, and I don't think that even happens anymore. And so that was another very significant change, that we allowed for people to take time between cures, and also when they do, there's no penalty for it, and we allow the payment to be based on the hypothetical minimum, it was based on what you made at your last job. So you can imagine the difference between a low salary and when you may have had a very high salary. Who can make that bridge payment? Well, you know, that would be very, very difficult. So that was a big change that we made. I think those are probably the most significant ones that we made with the new plan. And it's not a long list, but it's a very impactful list, I think.
Great. David, you were kind of nodding, but was your question?
Yeah, I'm just listening and nodding in agreement. I want you to know that I sent in a request by email for a pension voucher letter because I'm doing a refinance on my house. And I got a phone call from Church Pension while on this Zoom. Call us back and we'll take care of that. It was about 3 days ago that I sent in the request. So I just thought you'd like to know.
Great.
The only glitch I've ever I will say that response has always been helpful to me. I mean, during COVID, it's been a little slower because people are, working from home a lot, but responses like on Medicare signups and supplement plans and a little glitch I had this last year, all been very brisk. The one glitch I've consistently had as an interim, especially when I started doing interim minister in 2010 and moving from one place to another every year to 2 years, was maintaining my RSVP fund. Because every time you change cures, you had to re-enroll in the friggin' plan, and there was always a slow period of time, and then they changed the procedures for how it happened, and once or twice the whole thing just fell through the cracks, and I had to re-enroll 2 or 3 times. Plus, there's an ongoing problem in the way Church Pension communicates with Fidelity, and you often don't know who has the button. So that's the one glitch I've had consistently since 2010 is the RSVP.
Do you mind, Katie? I'm not sure if we've got time, but I could unpack, so people may not know what the RSVP plan is. So the RSVP plan is a defined contribution. You can have your base defined benefit plan that we all think of when we say the clergy plan. You can also, and we recommend that you put money in a supplemental retirement plan, which is a lot like the typical 403, 501k, 501c3. I'm getting all my numbers mixed up. Your classical defined contribution plan.
Yes. Yeah.
403b, thank you. So what that is that is managed by Fidelity for the church pension group. One of the problems, and I thought you were going to say this one, David, is that when you work at a parish or a diocese, they have to sign up with Fidelity. And sometimes parishes forget to sign up. And if you had this supplemental plan and you move to another parish, if that parish hasn't signed up, Fidelity doesn't know about them. And so they can't actually pay into the plan without signing the piece of paper. And it literally is a piece of paper that they sign.
And it can be a real pain.
It actually can, because typically, my parish in Palo Alto, we had a volunteer treasurer, and that's who needs to sign the form. And they weren't used to signing, defined contribution plan form. So once that gets to Fidelity, and this is the other question the other item that you mentioned, David, is like, who owns the button to do this? And we are an intermediary. So what we usually do is we're the nagging party. We nag the parish to please fill out the form, and we will nag Fidelity, please make sure that you process this form. And then, but in between all of that, you are sitting there with your new ministry going for now 3 months, and how do I get my RSVP started? So this is another thing that we know that has been a problem, and we are actually renegotiating with Fidelity and to try to smooth out some of the wrinkles in this.
Good.
But there's no way for us to sign the RSVP paper for the parish. It has to go direct to the parish. And so there are several hops, and so we're keenly aware of that. And some dioceses are like all over it, and other dioceses are saying, you know, the parish should be doing this. And so it for interims, it really does show up quite often as you move from parish to parish, and each parish is doing it a little differently.
The advantage, of course, of having it, there are 2 or 3 advantages other than saving for retirement. One is that when you retire and you get your relocation allotment from CPG, which is $20,000 when you retire, it can go straight into your RSVP, which is what I did. And then it can be used for housing. If you buy a house, or, you know, you can roll it out for a down payment without tax penalty. The other advantage is, now that I'm fully pensioned, the church can't pay into my pension anymore, but they can contribute to my 403B if I'm serving as an interim after retirement. So I've had this arrangement with every parish, put 10% in my 403B of my hand. So that's a way of building more income after you hit your maximum retirement age. That's very convenient. I mean, that's been a real help to me.
Good. Are there any other questions, kind of like based on y'all's experience of being in this position of new ministry development, church planting, that have come up that's like leading to some either like questions or just like strong opinions?
Love strong opinions.
Yeah. Things,
Like, who are we
words
voting
that just
for?
like must be spoken.
Well, I think one of the struggles is, and this is just the reality of being part of the market, is that the reward is on higher earning, no matter how you slice it or what the new rules are. And so those of us who are taking the risks of doing more innovative ministry that are often going to be smaller, you know, we're going to suffer in the end a little bit relative to our peers who, you know, have had the gifts to work in more established, larger parishes with bigger budgets, those kinds of things. And so there is an inequality to the whole thing that's still kind of a struggle. But I got into it knowing it. So, you know, there's a both.
And I think, Jonathan, one of the things that we've been looking at is, and you targeted the word. So we have been looking at inequity versus inequality, and in the pension plan, because one of the things that the General Convention asked us is like, well, how could we make the pensions have equity in one resolution, and how can we have pensions have equality in another resolution? And what's interesting is those are 2 different things. And so what we are able to do as an institution is address equity issues. It is fair. Everyone is on the same level. Everyone is treated the same. And in fact, we offer flexibility so that people who have gaps in service versus the unbroken career path have the same equity. They're treated equitably with others who might have, you know, a different type of career. The equality issue is a salary issue, is a church issue rather than a church pension issue, because it is systemic. And I think, you know, you pointed at that, is that those who take the most risks are often given the least rewards from the institution. The way a pension plan works is it's a savings account. What you put in, that's how much, you know, it's a calculation of how much you can put in and how much you will get out. We're not able to change the salary piece. So I think that's a church issue. And so you'll see our reports that come out that when you hear us say parity and equity, equality, when you start using those words, we are pretty clear on we are only able to change some of these things. And what we've done is we've tried to make it as equitable as possible. But the church needs to actually recognize that it's paying some of the people that are putting the most in the least. And unfortunately, that, you know, we are doing all we can to make the fund as flexible and as open, but we don't control the salary mix. I do want to take one related comment, Jonathan. One of the things that will come up is, well, in the Church of England, they all have flat pensions. Let's just all have a flat pension. So I don't know how many people you've talked to in the Church of England, but yes, they have flat pensions. But then there are churches that pay a lot more on top of that flat pension. So in fact, you are having a very, very small pension that is that, you know, if you're only doing that, and guess who is only going to get that flattest pension? The churches with very few resources, the churches where people are working harder than probably anybody else, but they're just going to get that. But these larger churches that have endowments, that have, you know, that have built up this corpus of money, they actually build on top of those pensions. So this, you know, everybody in England gets the same pension. That is in fact not true in you know, in practice. And so I think that what I am suspicious of that argument, because I know it does not work in England. I don't think it would work any differently here, and I think it moves the tension away from what we need to do. And as a church, that is address the income inequality and the salary inequality that we have on a level where those who work hardest are paid the least. I think that is a question and something the church needs to grapple with. We are standing by, ready to pay the pensions, you know, as we have people pay in. But I just wanted to give you a little quick aside on that. Oh, if we were just like the English church, everything would be fine. That is not true. That is a tactic to move away from, let's have the hard conversation of, are we paying the right thing to the right people?
Oh, wow.
Clayton, can I make a quick comment on that?
Yeah.
When I became a mission developer in 2000, what year was that? 2002, in Virginia, I was receiving the diocesan minimum for a new priest. That was it. Yeah. And of course, for those 8 years,
I've been there.
That's what I made, right? Because we were a new church. We're trying to, you know, we had other part-time staff we had to pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My hack didn't get its boost until I left in 2010 and started doing interim ministry and serving larger parishes as an interim. Well, those years, those 6 years really boosted my hack. But if I'd stayed in mission development the whole time, I would have retired with considerably less.
Who knows what a hack is? That's not David. Gail, tell us what a hack is. I'll tell you what the acronym stands for: highest annualized compensation. So that's right. That's what hack stands for.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So depending on your years of service and your
right.
your, you know, I would say, you know, now it's, you know, your highest earning years.
Right. Yep.
Pension
highest
fund.
earning 12 months.
Yeah.
And it's based on your
a
housing and salary, basically, is what that's set with. And the other advantage I had as an interim is some of the interims I served gave equity allowances, right?
Yeah.
And I put all that in my 403B. So, you know, I had 2 increased streams of income over those 6 years that made my retirement feasible.
David is a saver. So speaking as someone who's not necessarily a saver, I don't have all of the vehicles and all the smarts that David had, and I work at the pension fund. The hack is the highest 5 of 7 12 consecutive month period. So remember where we would have chosen 7 years and looked at the highest 5 of those 7. Now, because we do that pushing together and pick the highest 12 months, we pick the highest 7 consecutive 12-month periods, and then we take the highest 5 of those. That's your hack, and that's what your pension is based on. That is built with the hope was you could have a very, very, illustrious career, and then you could decide, I'm going to go be a missionary and make, almost nothing compared to my other salary. And it would not affect my hack because that's based on my time at this parish. What the hack turned out to be historically was this race to the top of how many highest years can I get? And so you'll hear clergy talk about their hack. Oh, I've got to make my hack here. My cohort, the Gen X cohort, I hear my friends saying, I've got my hack where I need it to be, which means that they know these are going to be my highest ever year pay. Now I am free to do whatever I want to do because I know I can retire at that level. So I have two friends now who are underemployed, to use a term, because they set their hack early in their career, and they know that they've got 7 years at this place, and 5 of those 7 will count as their hack, and now they are serving a camp and a smaller parish, but they're actually going to finish their time with their compensated years, and their pension will be based on those highest years, which of course nobody really knows, but they think they've already set their highest years because of their early service at a program-sized parish.
And those years, oh, I'm sorry, David.
Go ahead, Elena. Go ahead.
Those years are continuous. So 7 continuous and 5, correct? Whereas the 12-month periods could come from, over 20 years or.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
There's been one other learning for me. Social Security does something similar, only it's a much longer period of time. I think it's 35 years, the average. Even after you reach full retirement age, like I did, I took my Social Security at 66. I kept working, right? I'm still paying Social Security. I didn't realize they keep recalculating. So my Social Security benefit went up at age 70. And I got a retroactive payment of about $2,000 or $3,000 because they had recalculated my benefit based on my increased income after I reached mandatory retirement age. I didn't know they did that, but they do.
Yep. Yep. Elena, I see a knitted brow. You have it down pat. You just talked about hack without before this call. Did you think you were going to be a hack expert on the pension plan? So you have it exactly down right.
I definitely have been brushing up on my CPG website lately, so I'm glad that I passed the quiz. But
totally.
But it's very helpful just to kind of map out, and for me specifically, it has to do with like family care, taking care of parents, taking care of children,
absolutely.
Breaks in service, also just the trajectory of the church and everything that Jonathan was saying about really the future that we're living into doesn't necessarily pay dividends to those who really are passionate about embodying that sense of seeing what God is calling us to. So but this is really helpful because it brings it down to a more manageable level, and just being able to put a face and a name together is just so great. So thank you, Katie, for organizing this time.
Katie.
You're welcome.
So helpful. And thank you, Clayton, too. Yeah.
Glad to be here. And you've got my email. Use it. I am so glad to be a connector, and that's really my job. It's where my passion is. I think when Katie and I talked setting up the call, she was worried that she was going to get a total policy wonk, and I am so far from that. But I truly believe in our purpose, and like I said at the very beginning, if there's one thing I want you to do, it is to spread the word that CPG wants to be a part of your ministry from the start. Don't think about us 7 years in. Think about us from the start and find someone. We will partner with you.
Wow. Clayton, does CPG do Credo?
Yes.
This is a dumb question.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's one of those ancillary benefits that I was talking about. That's a part of the fund. So by participating in the fund, whether you're doing a bridge service in that 24 months, or you're doing an extension of ministry, or you have a Episcopal institution paying your assessment, you have access to all of our education plans and to Credo, and like I said, those financial advisor conversations. That's just a part of being in the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, one or two people have thrown out to me, has CPG ever considered a Credo for church planters, which
we would love that. I know that Kathy Floyd, who runs the Credo program as a part of Education and Wellness, puts together what she calls affinity Credos. It takes a while. It's like a 24-month period to get an affinity Credo, but you need a certain number to have that Credo happen. But if you don't mind, Katie, I'll put you in touch with Kathy about getting started on an affinity Credo for church planters.
I would love that. Thank you.
It's also a way to jump the queue on Credo.
Oh.
Because Credo has a very set schedule with when they will send you the invitation. If you're part of an affinity Credo, you just get to come in. So it's not a bad thing. Don't record that part. Yeah.
Well, that'd be great. Yeah, church planters have a very specific kind of fatigue. So.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that would be great. I'll put you in touch with Kathy.
Anything else, y'all? This has been awesome. Oh, sorry, Anna.
I have some naive questions.
I am the right person for a naive question.
Well, so I'm still very early in my process, and I've been a priest since 2018, so I'm still also relatively new as a priest. But I have the support of my diocese to create something new.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, how does Church Pension Group define what a church plant is or a ministry is? And if it involves multi-faith aspects, does that still mean that I'm part of, does that count as an Episcopal ministry, even if it's involving other faiths? And also, if it's more of an intentional community and monastic lifestyle, is that something that Church Pension Group works with? And those are just kind of my unknowns.
I can answer that question. So we don't get into the business of judging whether something's a ministry or not. It's not our lane, but it is the lane of the bishop of a diocese.
Right.
So if the bishop fills out the extension, so go to the website and pull down the extension of ministry form, and then look in that extension of ministry form, and there is a way of saying, this ministry does this and this and this. You may do much, much more than that, and it may look very different, but it needs to, fulfill these things, and you get the bishop to sign the letter of this has my full support as a ministry of the church and as my person for doing this ministry. That we just say yes. And actually, I'm on the committee that approves those extensions of ministry. So if you have any questions, you look at the form and say, I'm not sure, just drop me a line, and I'm glad to work with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. That wasn't naive at all.
Awesome. Clayton, thank you so much. This was
Thank you, Clayton.
Great.
Thank you.
And
really good to meet you all.
I'm going to be sharing the video with others who couldn't be here. And if there's anything that just kind of caught your attention that you want to go back through, the video will be available to everyone, or if you want to show it to your bishop and try to, convince him for some salary equity or any of these things that we've kind of talked about are the themes that are interrelated and come up as we try to do this bold new work. So
thank you, Katie.
Great. Yes, thank you, David. Thanks, Gail and Anna and Alana. And Have a great rest of your afternoon.
As well. Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye-bye.
It's so good to see you.